Hello, I'm Luke Hatfield, joined by Lewis Cox. We're here at the Montgomery Waters Meadow. We're in block 19, Lewis.
Yeah, it's Tuesday, isn't it?
Yeah, it is Tuesday. We're talking defenders. Interesting position.
How long have you got?
Considering that, let's be honest, it wasn't a great start to the season. Goals were conceded, and the positions across that back line where Town sometimes struggled, sometimes didn't. Brought in some really good names and some who maybe didn't fit the bill.
To context it, it's worth saying the start of the season under Sam Ricketts, they pretty much started off with a 4-3-3, which was going away from the sort of back five that brought Ricketts' defensive success here. So they were becoming less reliant at the back and tried to play more, score more, create more. So Ricketts was always mindful they were going to concede more chances. And like I say, that came to pass really. They weren't conceding loads and loads each game, but obviously they were struggling to score, so they were losing by the odd goal, and it was a struggle, as you say. Quickly sort of reverted to a back five, back three wing backs, and then obviously that was a system that Steve Cottrell sort of adopted when he came in late November. Obviously worked really well under the new manager, and they turned around the form and got some great wins, etc. And a lot of names, to be honest. As I say, it started as a 4 under Ricketts, so it was kind of squeezing 3 centre halves into 2, but then it became 3 centre halves at 3 at the back, obviously, and wing backs. So you had the three that have been here a little while in Aaron Pierre, Ethan Ebanks, Landell, and Roshan Williams. That was added to in January by Matthew Pennington, who had on loan, who had a great little loan at Town. It became an interesting point latter half of the season, because they had 4 centre backs trying to fight for the 3 places, and one missed out, and obviously one's now been released. So plenty to get into. And players who impressed me this season, Aaron Pierre, always impressive, very good at this level. It was a real shame that he missed out so many games through injury. Missed about 3 months at the end of the season.
Exactly. And then Pennington, like you said, brought in. He's now here on a permanent. Really impressed. Got really good pedigree as well.
That was a big. Obviously, as we speak, it's early June. We're very early in the summer. Haven't done too much business yet, but Pennington is one they've got over the line in terms of, I was going to say a new player, but your new permanent player. Along with Luke Leahy, Luke Leahy, who's another person we've got to get into, isn't he? Left wing back. Pennington, that was a big piece of business in terms of getting him in from a club like Everton. Obviously the finances involved in that, the CV's built up in terms of 100 championship games or whatever he's played, and the good second half of the season he had. It wasn't easy for him because he came in amid the COVID outbreak, obviously in January, where Town went 3 weeks without a game, and then I think he broke his collarbone, I think, after a couple of games, and then sort of had to come back and play right wing back for a couple of games, which because of the right wing back issue that we'll get into. I mean, about 20 players played right wing back last season. Pennington's clearly not a right wing back. He could do a job at right back and right centre half, but not really at wing back. But I think he did really. I think I agree with Steve Cottrell in there that the latter part of the season he was the club's most consistent centre half, which the manager has said. Like you said, they badly missed Pierre. Any team would, in both boxes really, which was unfortunate. But the form of the defenders at the start of the season, going back, the centre backs, they struggled in comparison with the heights they'd set themselves seasons gone by really, and that was notable, and their performance level dipped, and it did obviously previous manager Ricketts no favours really, because they weren't keeping the clean sheets they previously had. Obviously we spoke about the goalkeepers yesterday, that was a massive factor in that too. But clearly defensively they improved as the season went on under Steve Cottrell. I think they a little bit back to basics in terms of pure defensive shape and things like that, and it worked a treat. And just a shame about one side of the wing backs was solved in January, wasn't it, with Nathaniel Ogbeta coming in.
Fantastic signing.
Sensational. Obviously we'd had Charlie Daniels before that. I mean, the season feels so long, so many names. Obviously Charlie Daniels, ex-Premier League stalwart at Bournemouth, came in on a free. Around the time Scott Goldborn got injured for Sam Ricketts, and Town was sort of left with no one. They turned to Daniels. He did well, to be fair. He did well on a short-term deal. Looked at home in the side, but it always felt like he was going to leave. And obviously he left to go back closer to home to Pompey, and that hasn't worked out as well for him.
No.
But yeah, they solved that one side in January with Obeta, brilliant, absolute young player of the year, sensational signing, what a player, big future. Didn't go as well on the right side of the wing back.
No. Well, they thought they had it solved at one point when Matt Miller came in, and he looked like a real talent there.
Yeah.
But it was obviously all the way from Mars, and then he heads back, and then they can't nail down a way to keep him around.
Another bit of misfortune for Ricketts, really, in that they got Miller in last summer. It took him a while to get over here for one reason or another, I'm sure, the pandemic. But he didn't actually play Miller till October, I think. Certainly a long while, and Town were struggling by the time he got into the team. They really were. But he was a bright light, Miller. Fans really liked him. His physique, his sort of attacking intent,
his engine just got up and down all the time.
Yeah, and he was so strong and mobile, winning headers, scoring goals. He got a couple of goals in a couple of games. Really, really did well. And unfortunately, his deal was only until January, wasn't it? I believe, and he went back home. I think he was a little bit homesick, understandably, with the COVID situation as well. It must have been tricky for him. And Town couldn't strike a deal, could they, with Newcastle Jets? I think they tried. I think Cottrell liked him, and get on to how the right wing back situation sort of finished at the end of the season. But Matt Miller, as it stands, is out of contract in his homeland and looking to come back to England. So one to keep tabs on, possibly. Don't necessarily see him coming back here. I'm not so sure. I mean, Cottrell liked him, I think, and I don't think would totally turn his nose up to him, but I think he would probably have higher targets first. But let's see. I mean, I think Matt Miller will probably be in League One next season. I think Portsmouth like him, so let's see. But yeah, shame they couldn't keep hold of him, because I don't think wing back was an easy role for Steve Cottrell.
It wasn't, judging by the players who had played there.
No.
I mean, Barnett, Miller, Sears, Love, and David Davis and Josh Daniels all played there.
Josh Vella
too.
I mean, others would have had little half a game cameos there as well.
You might have got a game there at one point.
Yeah, I was close, but I didn't quite make the cut. I was busy reporting. It was difficult. Josh Daniels, I think, had the longest period there in the second half of the season, and it's worth saying as well, wing back's so important in this role. You got your three centre halves. The wing backs offer that attack.
Required not only in attacking areas but in defensive areas too. And
obviously, Cottrell will want them to be defensively sound enough. I remember him telling us that Matt Miller had to work on his defensive game. Josh Daniels played there for a period when Town really needed some big wins, and Josh Daniels helped them get those wins. I remember he got one of the goals in a big win at Rochdale, which ended a curse at Rochdale. He's a winger, Josh Daniels. Bit of an unknown quantity from Ireland last summer. Didn't really happen for him under Ricketts. Couldn't really find his role as a winger. Only played the odd game or two, but suddenly found himself at home at right wing back, really. And it was only, I thought he was playing very well there. It was only a calf injury, I believe, around the time they won at Burton on a Tuesday night that stopped him, and he didn't really play again for the season. But I think about the draw they got at Charlton when Town played really well. He was excellent going forward and defensively. His engine, he runs, his mobility, his leap, tiny lad, wins great headers. I think most would agree, I think he's got something. He's a winger, whether he's a wing back, whether he's a second choice wing back next season, I don't know. But he had something, but he got injured. There were so many injuries last season. I mean, I remember writing early on in the season with Ricketts, there were something like 12 injured at one point. Crazy numbers. Obviously the schedule was sort of truncated because of COVID and whatnot, but it was tricky after that. We had Ryan Sears, obviously has since been released from the club's academy, played a couple of games there, didn't go too well. David Davis had half a dozen games there, probably. He was clearly signed to be a centre midfielder. Obviously he's not been taken on either, Davis. It was Ryan Barnett at the start of the season, as you said. Donald Love was brought out of the cold. Obviously he was sort of exiled by Sam Ricketts, strangely, along with Sean Goss. At the start of the season he was brought back in to play there. I think, no disrespect, but Town didn't have many other options. They went through so many. Some worked, I believe, like Daniels, some not so much. It was tricky, but they got over the line just with some to spare. But it was a problem position, and one that I'm sure the manager will have sort of big targets for the summer.
Yeah, and lastly, Lewis, let's quickly touch on Luke Leahy. He's come in, he knows the level. Someone who could have a big role to play next season.
Yeah, big player for Bristol Rovers last season. I mean, Bristol Rovers finished bottom and went down, unfortunately, and he has been relegated with Walsall before too, but he had a good season, I think, personally. Obviously, it's easy to be distracted by his goals, of which I think he got 10. Half of them were penalties.
Yeah, loves a penalty.
Yeah, but you know, he still scored 5 goals from open play from left wing back or whatever. And Cottrell was big on that when they signed him. Actually, he said, look at his output for goals, assists. He got a lot of assists. I think chances created. I think he's always at the back post. I think Cottrell likes attacking fullbacks. I think that was clear from his Bristol City success. And Lee can be that. You know, unfortunately for Lee, he plays in the same position as Ogbeta.
Yeah.
So, you know, I suppose good luck to him in that regard. But, you know, not for 1 minute saying Ogbeta isn't going to be here next season, but there are a lot of big clubs in this country looking at him and monitoring Ogbeta. Make no mistake about that. So hopefully he'll be here, but, you know, watch this space, I suppose. But yeah, 2 very good players in that position. Lee, I think, will be a sound option. He's a better attacking wing back than I suppose he is defensively, from what I've heard, from what I've been told. Perhaps positionally is his sort of weakest area, but we haven't seen that yet. He hasn't played a game for Town. I suppose it's easy to hear that when he's been at a club that finished bottom and conceded a lot of goals and struggled. But he was a big part of. He was made captain by Joey Barton, who was the third of 3 managers at Bristol Rovers last season. So he's clearly got something about him in terms of his presence. You know, his big profile in the dressing room and things like that. Sort of leader. So yeah, good characters, strong characters, I guess, that you want at the club. So that was promising, and I think, you know, for him to have done so well despite him going down, they wanted to keep him. You know, he sort of wanted to maintain his place at a League One club and prove that he can, I suppose, be part of a team that goes well in this division, you know, obviously after Walsall and Bristol Rovers. So I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah, so defensive positions, one to maybe look at in the summer. Make sure you tune in tomorrow where we're talking midfielders.